Welcome back. Today we have my childhood retro gaming wet dream. It's the ColecoVision. It was the first gaming console I ever played. I didn't own one. My brother had one and I always played in his room when he wasn't around, or he allowed me to play. And I always wanted to have one for myself now, but they tend to be a bit on the expensive side. But I got a nice deal for two of them, and for basically the price of one. The seller said both are working, or were working, the last time he turned them on, which was a couple of years ago, so who knows. And yeah, the ColecoVision was introduced to the market in 1982. So it's directly competed with all the Atari systems, and well, you could guess it's an American company. So when 1994 hit, Coleco went down, and that's a shame because it was a nice console. The console is powered by a Z80 CPU, and the killer app for the console was Donkey Kong. This was before the first NES or Famicom from Nintendo, where they acquired the rights for Donkey Kong, and it was a near arcade-like experience. So yeah, you had these nice looking controllers in here with these spiral cords. It always looked like a telephone to me back then, with the numpad, and like you could dial with it. This wasn't the first design though that used this format. We had the best example would be the Intellivision by Mattel. So yeah, it's just basically the same, just a bit later. You had some inlays which you could switch out in here for various games. And yeah, so together with these two consoles, I got a couple of games, and yeah, I think this was a binder back then. Yeah, we have to check them out too, if they work or not. Also, I took apart this one, or took off the case, just to have a look inside to see what it looks like. If they in fact do work. I plan to do an AV mod because they only use RF, and it's not that good in quality, and an AV mods on these consoles are fairly easy to do. Also, you don't need to drill holes. That's what I found out, because you have this little plate back here, which is for the RF switch, and yeah, you can just swap them out or leave them out and have your AV ports back there. Yeah, so we'll hook these up, look if they work, and yeah, then we have to decide which one we do. I will do both eventually, but for now I will concentrate on finishing one, to do an AV mod, clean them up, test out all the games, fix the games, fix other issues, and see where we're going with this. So let's have a look.
First, it's nice to see that the consoles themselves are working. At least it seems like it, because this version of Donkey Kong has some graphical issues, and I'm not yet sure if it's the console or the game. And the two copies of Cosmic Avenger don't seem to be recognized at all. Gorf, on the other hand, works fine. I start to suspect the previous games. Sega's Turbo also works. Well, as far as I can tell at least. I've never played this before and don't really get how to steer your car. But maybe it's just me being dumb. And this copy of Donkey Kong actually works great without issues. So it has to be a fault with the first couple of games. Pepper 2 is also in good working condition. I really did play this for hours and hours when I was a child. And at last we have the Space Invaders clone Spectron, also working as it should. Now let's get started with the disassembly by unplugging the controllers and taking out the partially corroded screws from the bottom. And right at the beginning is the hardest part, opening the case. The official way to open the console is to rip off the decal on the front because there are screws underneath it. You could then remove the front and just lift up the top cover. But there's a trick to opening the console without damaging the front decal. If you're careful, you can wiggle the top and bottom part enough to get them apart with the front still attached. The ColecoVision has a thick shielding, which is not only screwed to the case, but also soldered to ground and also bridging it to the case of the RF modulator. I thought unscrewing the mainboard would be enough to get it out, but apparently years of dust, gunk and supposedly warm temperatures just baked the thing to the case. RF cable? Where we are going, we won't need RF cables. That's the board and the lower shielding out. Also, the power socket is rusty as hell. And the RF modulator is the last one to go. The screws of the controllers are also pretty corroded. Plus, the back base of the joystick is welded on, so I won't remove that apparently. Fun fact while I'm disassembling and cleaning the controllers. The ColecoVision has an expansion port on the front side for various expansions, like Module 1 to let you play Atari 2600 games, or the Module 3 as known as the Anthem, which transformed your console into a Z80A powered home computer with 80K of RAM. But there were also more modern modules released for expanding the graphics and audio capabilities of the console to support modernist versions of some games. Okay, let's let those screws and the power ports sit in a shot of vinegar for a while. On the now right side of the mainboard you can see the expansion connectors I mentioned earlier. Okay, it's time to get to the board. First thing to do is to desolder the power port to put it in the vinegar with the screws. Also, the RF switch needs to go. We won't need it anymore, but what we need is the space it occupies. And some additional rust removal on the power port before the vinegar bath. Now, before getting to the AV modification, I wanted to replace at least all the electrolytic capacitors for some extended lifetime of the console. Okay, I promise to keep this part short, but of course I also cleaned all the plastic parts and even the cables with warm soapy water. Of course, before the main attraction, I reassembled both controllers by soldering back the wires, plugging back in the numpads and side button caps, and securing the case with deoxidized screws. Remember the RF switch bracket? Well, I decided to 3D print replacement with holes for the audio and video jacks, so I don't have to damage the original one. So here notice that you can't put the populated bracket in when the main board is in the case. First thing for the AV mod, I soldered on the wires for the audio and video jacks. Now we grab the required signals from the board and work on the additional circuitry. This is based on a German forum post on circuitboard.de by the user Scorp.ius. And yes, I probably butchered that name right now. I recreated his schematics in TinyCAD, which was my first time with the program, so please bear with me on the design. Great, now it's time for the first test. Video does work. And the audio too. Let's start with the reassembly. I decided to put the RF modulator back in the case, so the machine is more of a complete unit, and use one of its screws to attach the breadboard with the AV circuitry to the case. And last thing to have a look at are the games. As you need to remove the label to unscrew the case, I tried cleaning the contacts first.
And that's with the ColecoVision. We now have an AV mod in this one and can hook it up to a more modern TV. We did some improvements on the inside, we cleaned it up and we got it back together in one piece. All the games are working except this copy of Cosmic Avenger. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it to run. I even opened it up, cleaned it a bit more thoroughly, checked all the continuity between the pins and the chips, but that's all okay. So I guess it's one of the chips. Maybe if I have another card in the future, I can salvage that and swap some parts around. Even though opening up these cartridges is a bit of a hassle, because this is one of the cases where the screws are behind the cover and you need to damage the cover to unscrew the game cartridge. But I have another copy of this and that one works, so this is kind of okay. Yeah. This system was a passion project of mine because, as I said, it was the first console I ever played on during my early childhood, when my brother had a console like this. And yeah, I'm happy to have it running again. I showed it to my brother. He was kind of nostalgic about it too. And yeah, let's have some gameplay with it, and I see you next time. Thanks for watching.